I'm going to go to Mike in Toledo. Dear Bishop Thomas, during a recent Acts retreat, the participants at our church decided to do Stations of the Eucharist as opposed to Stations of the Cross. It was the first time I had ever seen this done. Can you explain the Stations of the Eucharist in more detail and how that differs from Stations of the Cross? Thanks, Mike.
So thank you, Mike, so much. I must confess to you, and I always do this on the show, when I get a question of something that says, I don't know what this is, if I don't know what it is either, I admit it. So I have to tell you, Mike, I never heard of these Stations of the Eucharist myself. So I'm grateful that you mentioned to us. In a nutshell, I would send you to a website, which is Aletheia, and I've often recommended it before. It's a great resource. Have you ever prayed the Stations of the Eucharist? Great place to go for the history and background. You ask what differs from the Stations of the Cross. Apparently, there are, quote, 12 Stations of the Eucharist. So we know that would differ automatically from the Stations of the Cross, which traditionally number 14. You probably know the Stations were really a work begun principally by the Franciscans. And remember that prayer, we adore you, O Christ, and we praise you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. St. Francis wrote that. So even our Stations of the Cross come from the Franciscans. To my knowledge, the Poor Clares of Perpetual Adoration in Alabama are the ones who have promoted the devotion of the Stations of the Eucharist. I don't have the information, Mike, right here about who actually wrote them or founded them. But, for example, it's a devotion that every version, every station highlights a different prefigurement or fulfillment of the Eucharist. So Melchizedek, the Jewish Passover, the manna, Elijah and the hearth cakes, Bethlehem, the house of bread, the wedding feast of Cana, multiplication of the loaves, the bread of life discourse, the Last Supper, the road to Emmaus, the supper of the Lamb, marriage supper of the Lamb. So these are some of the things. I invite you to further your knowledge of it. And we know that devotions are things which are not sacraments, but they can certainly, as devotions, lead people more deeply into their faith and their relationship with the Lord. So there you go.
All right, good. Thank
Great.
you.